Good afternoon and welcome to this historic event for Lincoln and our state, the celebration of the Centennial Mall renovation. My name is Christy Dianasopoulos and I'm the director of the Lincoln Parks Foundation. I was president of the Parks Foundation when this project was identified as our priority project back in 2009. This is our largest project ever. Patience, perseverance, and the incredible support of over 130 donors are why we are here today. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your support of this project. I would like to welcome our elected officials that are here with us today, our two speakers, Senator Patty Pansing-Brooks and Mayor Chris Beitler. And we also have County Commissioner Bill Avery with us. Bill, thank you. I would also like to mention the amazing team that I get to work with every day. We have our Parks Foundation President, Don Day, our Secretary, Ann Avery, our longest standing board member, Bill Whiteau, and our office manager, Sue Quambush, and campaign coordinator, Susan Larson-Rodenberg. And I am also thankful for our Parks Department staff. What an amazing group of people, and are so dedicated to making Lincoln the beautiful place that it is. Lynn Johnson, Jerry Shorney, Chris Myers, JJ Yost, Kat Scholl, Mark Canny, Bob Dodds, David Ross, and our public garden staff who have made the mall look so beautiful. Steve Nozzle, Alice Reed, Steve Harris, Mike Fallon, Jeff Bull, and Zach Halley. Our program today begins in the Rotunda, and we will hear about the project from Parks and Rec Director Lynn Johnson. Senator Patty Pansing-Brooks, our campaign tri-chair, will share all about the wonderful people who came together to make this project a reality. We will then continue our program outside on the North Plaza area, and we will hear from Jeff Searcy, Chair of the Capital Environs Commission, Mayor Chris Beitler, and Mary Arth, our other tri-chair campaign leader. I'll return with instructions on how and when we will move outside. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Lynn Johnson, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Chrissy. I am most thankful this afternoon that computer and that projector decided to talk to one another. My job this afternoon is to talk a little bit about the history of the mall and introduce you to some of its features. This is really a project that has been in the making for nearly 95 years. The vision for Centennial Mall really grew out of Bertram Goodhue's vision for this grand Capitol building. He envisioned that there would be broad avenues extending in each of the cardinal directions from the Capitol building, and we do have those. The grandest of those being the axis that would extend north from the Capitol building to the University of Nebraska, and that became Centennial Mall. The interesting thing at the time that Mr. Goodhue envisioned that 15th Street did not extend beyond 15th Street, did not extend beyond O Street. And it was really the state, working with the city, working with the university, that broadened the width of that avenue to its current 120 feet and extended it from O Street all the way to R Street. And that happened in about 1937. And then really, the mall sat for another 30 years, and it was the state centennial, I think, that was the inspiration for development of Centennial Mall, much as we know it today. The two northern blocks, the two southern blocks were closed to vehicular traffic. They became pedestrian malls, and the center portion of the mall remained open to vehicular traffic. There was a series of plazas and lawns, and at that time I think there were 4 fountains, probably the fountains that we all recognize. You can see 2 of those in the photograph here. There was also early on a very grand public art exhibition on the mall, and you see the remnants of that, or you see the pieces of that in that photograph. Then really what happened was that as the mall aged, it didn't age gracefully, and it got to the point that we really needed to do a major renovation. And back in 2009, when Mayor Beitler was in office, one of his initial priorities was to find the funding that it would take to initiate the Centennial Mall renovation project. The city identified $3 million, and that provided the basis from which the campaign was initiated. Initially, the state became part of the effort with an $800,000 grant. Patty was not yet senator at that time, but she was very instrumental in helping make that happen. The Lancaster County also stepped up with lodging tax fund. So we essentially had the funding from the governmental entities associated with the mall, and then began a statewide fundraising effort led by a very dedicated team that was organized by Susan Larson Rodenberg. The Centennial Mall is like the other areas surrounded by the Capitol building in that there is a joint city and state body that are responsible for reviewing improvements that happen around the Capitol building to make sure that things that are around this building continue to be respectful. And in 2010, the Capital Environments Commission approved the master plan for renovation of Centennial Mall. In 2011, we had the first $500,000 gift, and we began that marathon effort of rounding up the funds. In 2012, I mentioned that the state brought forward $800,000. And then as we were wrapping up the campaign, through the very generous efforts of Mary Arth, she brought a great friend to the project, Glenn Korf, and Glenn Korf donated $2 million. He was a very significant benefactor to the project, and we had completed the $9.6 million effort that resulted in the $8.1 million renovation project, and there is $1.5 million in an endowment that is held by the Lincoln Parks Foundation and also by the Lincoln Community Foundation that assures that the improvements on Centennial Mall will remain in good condition over time. Quick overview, I think as many of you know, Centennial Mall extends 7 blocks. It's essentially a half-mile long. It extends from the north steps of the Capitol building to the University of Nebraska building on the north and touches at the State Historical Society. Quick overview of the mall is that it is a series of lawns and plazas and accessible walks. We have 3 unique fountains on the mall that we'll talk a little bit about. There are twin walkways, twin accessible walkways that frame the mall. An idea that came out of this project was that we wanted to make sure that we were telling the story of Nebraska, both its people and its special places as part of the mall. We developed a concept that we called the Spirit of Nebraska Pathway, and so there are stories about the features, the people, the organizations that come together to make this great state. And through the efforts of Roger Ludeman and Randy Cassabaum, we have a very unique element. As you get out on the mall, you will see that there are QR codes embedded in the surface of many of those plaques. If you click on those QR codes, they take you to interpretive information about the mall. A very unique feature. We think it's going to be a great way for people to learn more about our great state. As with the 1967 mall, the mall is lined with red oaks. There were flowering Japanese tree lilacs in the central 3 blocks, and flowering pears marked the tree intersections. We wanted to make sure that we celebrated the landscape of Nebraska, and so much of the landscape plantings are predominantly native plants. The design motifs came from this building. As you walk the mall, you will see that many of the design motifs and design elements are embedded in this building, and we wanted to take them out onto the mall to make sure that we had a symbolic connection between this great building and its extension to the north. There are 5 iconic symbols that are embedded throughout the mall. You see the Thunderbird, the bison, the scales, corn, and then the plowshare with the sheaf of grain. And each one of those represents an aspect of Nebraska. The renovation project was designed by the Clark Enerson partners. Larry Enerson actually developed the design for the 1967 mall, and so I think it was important and that we had his legacy group continue with design of the renovation project. Construction was by Sampson Construction and Miko Henna Contracting. The renovation cost was $8.1 million. I mentioned the endowment, and the mall is on the City of Lincoln property, and it's managed by Lincoln Parks and Recreation. The blocks each have a theme. We wanted to make sure that we were telling a story as part of the mall. And the theme of the block between K&L Street is We the People, and it's a tribute to our leaders, our government, and our citizens. Central within that is the Capitol Fountain and Plaza. There are fountain jets that spray onto the Great Seal of the state of Nebraska. That fountain was a gift from Glenn Korf, and there is a plaque that recognizes Glenn's significant gift. We also have a great lawn just to the south of that that will be a wonderful place for a variety of gatherings and events. The next block to the north is between L and M Street. It's just east of the State Office Building, and the theme of that block is Our Home, Nebraska. And this is the place where we want to recognize the natural resources of our state and the critical importance of stewardship of those areas. Central within that is the plaza that we are calling Nebraska Heritage Plaza. And there is a 90-foot wide map of the state of Nebraska on that plaza. The rivers of the state are recognized, the county seats are recognized, the ecoregions within which Nebraska is located is recognized. Along the eastern boundary of that plaza is a fountain that we call the Missouri River Fountain, and that was a gift from Larry and Mary Arth. This is the Missouri River Fountain. The fountain jets jump in spring and remind us of the significance that the Missouri River has on both the economy and the ecology of the area. There are two plazas along the west side of that. There's the Ogallala Aquifer Plaza and the Platte River Plaza, recognizing the significance of those areas to Nebraska. There are 4 limestone seat walls, and the 4 tribes that have connections to the state are recognized both with their English name as well as their native name inscribed on the face of those, and then their native landscape plantings that wrap around those. And the 93 counties are recognized there as well. Just as the 93 counties wrap around the band of this building, they flank either side of the Nebraska map. The central 3 blocks we called Mosaic of Nebraskans, and we're really here highlighting the people, the cultures, and the organizations that come together to create the social quilt of Nebraska. And these are landscaped areas. The blocks are open to vehicular traffic, and there is parking. And we have a series of plaques there of the organizations, the communities, the people that really make up and continue to make up Nebraska. We will have many, many opportunities to continue to expand this opportunity over time, or expand the story over time. And then the northern 2 blocks between P and R streets, the theme there is sparking the good life, really imagination to innovation. And there we're talking about that Nebraska cultivates imagination, fosters ideas, and provides education to its citizens. This is a view looking to looking north from R Street, and you can see the 2 blocks there. In the northern block is the fountain that we call the Imagination Fountain, and the jumping jets of that fountain are supposed to symbolize creativity and imagination and all that comes into generating ideas that drive our state forward. In that block, we also have a light circle that has the names of 27 tribes who have historic ties to the area that became Nebraska. The outside of that light circle is planted with native plants. And then just to the north of that, Tem and Ta, a sculpture by Gene Heistein, have been reinstalled in the mall. And then there's a gathering circle just north of that where we'll have the opportunity for a whole variety of events and activities. And then at the very north end of the mall is Reflection Plaza. And that's where the dedication plaque for this project is located. They're not there yet, but there will also be 6 interpretive plaques that will have information about the history of the 3 state capitol buildings in Nebraska, the founding of the city of Lincoln, and then some history about Centennial Mall. One of the significant elements that we felt was important, that we recognize Nebraska's Native American heritage. And so there's a number of elements designed throughout the mall that incorporate information about Nebraska's Native American heritage. The Spirit of Nebraska Pathway has 3 plaques that recognize 3 Native Americans who are Nebraska Hall of Fame honorees. I mentioned the limestone seat walls around the Nebraska Heritage Plaza that has the names of the 4 tribes. Chief Standing Bear Trail, when you get out there, you will see that there are a series of plaques mounted to the face of the Nebraska map that have a bear paw on them and dates, and those are the dates of the forced relocation of the Ponca tribe as they moved from the Niobrara Valley south to Oklahoma. I mentioned the 27 tribes that are recognized in the P to Q block. In that same block, There's recognition of Native Americans' language symbols, and they're engraved on the seating blocks and limestone walls in that area. In the future, we'll have a quote from Black Elk engraved into that plaza. And then we've got Native American design motifs that are used as paving patterns and decorative elements throughout the mall. And we want to tell you all, thank you very much. This has been a 9-year journey to get to this point, and we want to tell you thank you very much for your participation. This could not have happened without everybody's efforts coming together to make this happen. And we're ready for a big party next year. Thanks very much.
Good afternoon. I'm so happy and excited to be here today. I'm State Senator Patty Pansing Brooks, and I represent the 28th Legislative District. And as Lynn mentioned, when I was fortunate enough to work on this project, I think it was 2008 is when we started, and I wasn't in my current position, but it was such a joyous event to be able to work on these 7 blocks that bridge really 2 of our greatest institutions for our state, the state capitol and the University of Nebraska. This morning, I wanted to start out with something. We have the celebration, if you'll give me a second, a celebration of the 150th anniversary of First Plymouth Church today. It's 6.5 months before Nebraska became a state. And there's a young man named Tom Trenny who's the minister of music there, and he spoke some words that I thought related to this celebration today. So I asked him if I could use them, and so I just wanted to start with that. We are the echo of a frontier people. We are the ancestors of our future. We are the voice of a robust and determined people that bravely ushered in the 20th century. And we are the fledgling sounds of those who will bravely enter into and usher in the 22nd century. We are the spirit of a faith sung courageously through world wars and a Great Depression, and the song to be sung for challenges yet to come. We are the progeny of family who have found sanctuary here in Nebraska for 150 years, and the legacy of our proud Nebraska family who will find sanctuary here in the next 150 years. And I want to say this because I want to remind you, of course, that Centennial Mall was created in celebration of our state's history, in March of 1867, and I felt it was important for us to talk about that because the mall is the embodiment of the celebration of our state and the celebration of our wonderful people. I want to add that today's celebration is really bittersweet for some of us. We, not here, but clearly here in spirit, are our beloved Roger Larson and also our beloved Glenn Korff, 2 of whom, without those 2, we would not be standing here finished today, I don't believe, or we'd still be trying to raise the last dollars probably. As co-chair of the fundraising campaign with Roger Larson and Mary Arth, I was so blessed and fortunate. I learned so much. Working with Roger Larson is a rocket ride. It was a joyful, wonderful experience, and all I could basically do is hang on to those coattails and learn. And then we also had Mary Arth, a very different type of fundraiser, but powerful and gracious and wonderful in her own sense. So I learned a magnificent amount from both of those wonderful Nebraskans, and I feel so privileged to have been able to do that work. As we started the campaign, we knew that we wanted to get the message out that this is Nebraska's Centennial Mall and that we needed to get state buy-in. And this mall would not have happened were it not for our incredible Mayor Chris Beitler. His vision, again, he's another person that we would not be standing here today without his vision and his willingness to come up with the first dollars to support our fundraising efforts and to get other people behind it. He's a tenacious visionary. He is a public servant that's unparalleled in his commitment to our community and to our state and to our people. And I think he is a mayor for whom we are truly grateful, and I want to take a second to. You know, as we were fundraising, I learned a lot from Roger, because as we were going across the state, we had this money from the city, but we knew we needed to go across the state and try to raise dollars. And people told us, oh, you'll never get money out of Omaha, and oh, there's no way that anybody outstate will see this and understand it and be willing to give any dollars. Well, Roger taught us that no's can turn into yeses, that if you go back another time, a year later, they may start shifting their minds, and never to be discouraged, but to keep trying. And we did. And we were fortunate. We were able to raise money from as far away as Scotts Bluff and as close as Omaha. We kept trying. We have incredible donors, a myriad of donors, different organizations, different individuals who saw the vision of how important these 7 blocks are to the celebration of our state and of our history. Glenn Korff was an angel in disguise. He swooped in towards the end of the campaign, thanks to his great love of Mary Arth. And we were really fortunate, because it was a time when Roger was starting to slow down with some health issues, and we were trying to sort of regroup a little bit, and in came this angel who loved our tri-chair, and he finished the last fundraising for us. And the other blessing is that Roger was able to know this prior to his death. So again, these men's spirits are here with us today. I feel them strongly. I feel such gratitude and love for them. So also, I want to thank Lynn Johnson, and he's the Director of Parks, who has consistently provided creative and energetic guidance. As you can tell, he's an indomitable force that has so much positive energy that at any barrier, we were able to find a way to come around it or to go over it, and it was because of Lynn's great prodding and creative thinking. And I also want to thank the Lincoln Parks Foundation as well, because the Lincoln Parks Foundation has been integral to this entire effort, helping us figure out how to hold monies, where to go, how to direct donors, and their efforts were amazing as well. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my dear friend and compatriot and partner in crime, basically, the campaign executive director, Susan Larson Rodenberg. And if you where are you, Susan? Where are you hiding quietly, nicely? Well, she's out working somewhere. There she is. There's Susan. And if you haven't had the benefit of working with Susan, you should. She is an extremely organized and sometimes bossy taskmaster, which I say with all love, and she's a spirited and insightful leader. And clearly, without Susan's vision and determination and work and efforts, we wouldn't be here either. Susan and I had the fun of taking our little dog and pony show across the state. We went to Kearney, North Platte, Omaha, Ashland, Schuyler, Lexington, and Scotts Bluff. We met with the heads of the various counties and the heads of NACO, and really were able to tell the story, and people were really understanding what was important about these 7 blocks, why they're so integral to our state. I also want to thank part of our campaign team. Jeff Searcy is here, Roger Ludeman is here, the problem with thanking some people is that so many of you have had a part of this, and I'm worried about that, but that's sort of my job today. So we had major partners in the county, the city, and the state. It was the first time for that whole group to come forward. If you look at the statutes, nothing can be done on Centennial Mall without each of them playing some part of the role. So we had major donations from the Union Pacific, and it was just wonderful to have so many different groups coming together to support this amazing statewide project. Finally, I want to recognize, and also there are some other major partners that I'm wanting to mention. Olson and Associates, Tom Logging, Sampson Construction, Mecco-Henny Contracting, the Nebraska Capital Environs Commission, the Nebraska Environmental Trust, Nebraska Nursery and Color Garden, TMCO, Dieter Foundry, Rickstein Recognition, and Project Control. And finally, I want to recognize the design and construction team. And when you walk down there, you'll see what amazing things all of their collaborative efforts have done. They've worked to design and tell many stories about Nebraska down this mall. And that team includes Clark Enerson, BVH Architects, and Encompass Architects. The symbols, as Lynn said, continue down the mall from our capital. It is truly Goodhue's vision extended today. Our front doorstep is now complete, which connects to our university. I also want to mention the wonderful work we were able to do with my friend Judy Goshkabosh and the work that she helped us with in bringing the tribe's voices to our meetings and to bring members of the tribe. We were very honored because tribal leaders came to meet with us to talk about this celebration of our first people and the tribes who are our first residents. So again, as you can tell, it was such a privilege to work with so many different members of our community, so many different people across this state to celebrate. And I hope you see and understand and will read the magnitude of what you will see today as you go down, because it takes some time to go through this mall. As Roger Larson said, I went back to a couple of the previous speeches from when he had spoken, and he talked about in 2013 that the goal was to be permanent, beautiful, educational, and historic. He said permanent enough to last a century or more. And this was the second project that we did. The first one was Union Plaza, where basically the mayor and the Parks Department gave us the go-ahead to finally raise enough money for an endowment as well. As you may remember, in 2007, that was a very risky thing to do. And we felt like we needed to do it, or things would start falling in disrepair as they had previously. And so people were saying, well, I don't think you're going to be able to raise any money for an endowment. And people got it, and they understood it. And if you want something this beautiful and valuable, people were willing to give to an endowment to make sure that we have it for generations to come. So we have created something permanent enough. He then said that he wanted it beautiful enough to be the extension of our gorgeous world-renowned capital and all of the beautiful history and the carvings and the tile work here. And I think that you will agree that that has been done. And he mentioned having it educational enough. And you know that 35,000 fourth graders come every year to this capital from our state schools to visit and learn about our history and our beautiful capital. And then they walk down the mall to have their first visit at our university. So this will be wonderful because those teachers can check tablets out of the information desk or iPads and go and read the QR readers that Roger Ludeman worked so hard on and helped us to place, and Jeff Searcy. And so they'll be able to focus on the QR readers and learn about Willa Cather and learn about Standing Bear and learn about all the wonderful parts of our history that make us unique. And it will include the 1 million visitors that visit our state every year. So they will also, and his final thing was to make it historical enough. Historical enough to show the growth of our state from a treeless plain, a grassland, to the bountiful agricultural economy that we have here today. And that's significant not only to Nebraska, but to the rest of the world. So, and I'm seeing Senator Avery's here. He was integral in this initially as well, and I know Senator Peterson's here and was positive support. There's so many people, and I'm sorry if I've let Don Hutchins is here from when he was head of ag, wheat, what was it? Corn Board. Oh my God, I knew this would happen, sorry. So anyway, finally I want to end on a statement that Roger Larson said consistently throughout our campaign, that we all drink from wells we did not dig. And we celebrate one of those wells today that we did not dig, but we are grateful, all of us, to be able to play a role in revitalizing and refurbishing a well that will be here and allow Nebraskans in the future to continue to gain sustenance, both educationally and historically, for generations to come. So thank you all for being here. Let's celebrate.